Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am the Night Walker, and tonight I want to talk about a movie that it came out in 2001. I'm not sure if it was just a movie or if it was a TV miniseries or whatever, but honestly, this movie, you can find this movie. It was released by Echo Bridge, and you can find this movie on DVD or Blu-ray in like any, you know, $5 bin, or you can find it in pawn shops and thrift stores, and they're all over the place. And just because, it's a cheap DVD or it's a cheap Blu-ray, don't discount this movie because it's actually a pretty good movie. The movie I'm talking about, well, you already know from the title, but the movie we're talking about is the movie Salem Witch Trials. Now, this was not what I was expecting it to be, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by that. There are times where I've gone into a movie like, okay, like take Brian De Palma's movie Black Dahlia, for example. Now, I love Brian De Palma's movies. I think he's a genius of a director. And when I heard he was doing a movie about the Black Dahlia, I was psyched. I thought he's going to do a movie about the true life of Elizabeth Short, and what it kind of. I mean, I knew it couldn't be 100% accurate because nobody really knew it, all the details of what happened to her. So I mean, everybody knew that okay, yeah, there was going to be some there was going to be some embellishments and things like that, but you figured they were going to get close. But then when you watch the movie and you realize like the Black Dahlia really has nothing to do with the movie that much, and it's just kind of like this little thing in the movie, and it's actually more like this hard-boiled noir detective movie, and it's just it really takes you out of it. At least for me, it does. But this here, that's kind of what I thought was going to be a similar situation with this. I thought it was just going to be kind of like one of those like cheap deals, like what Yuli Lamel used to do all the time, where he would make all these movies. Like he would do a BTK movie, or he would do a movie on Zodiac, or he would do a movie on the Night Stalker, and then you realize he would just do this really, really ultra cheap movie, and just basically try to cash in on the name, or try to cash in on the event. But then you realize the movies really were not that good, and they just didn't have anything to do with it. This here, like I said, it's different, but it's different in a good way, in the sense that this movie, I thought this was going to be kind of like a fictionalized, kind of like a witchcraft movie, where they're going to be, like people are going to be like a lot of just a lot of fiction and a lot of fake stuff going on. But then when you realize this movie really is meant to be more of a drama, it's meant to be more of a story talking about the real story behind the Salem witch trials, and that um, I thought it was going to be kind of like a thing, maybe something along the lines of like Lords of Salem, where you realize there were in that story, there are real witches and they practice witchcraft and stuff like that. This here, no, this is more trying to tell the facts of the story, and I highly recommend this movie. I really do. Don't let the fact that, like I said, if you see this, just the fact that it's a cheap DVD or a cheap Blu-ray, don't let that deter you away from this. This is actually a really good movie. Um, I mean, of course, yeah, this too, in the same thing, there are embellishments in this movie, but I think they got it as close as they possibly could. And not to mention, too, the level of actors that you got in this movie, really, really works. I mean, yeah, I know they got Kirstie Alley, Alan Bates, but I mean, also, too, you got, you got Rebecca DeMornay is in this. You got Peter Ustinov, Shirley MacLaine. So, I mean, you got, J.O. Sanders. You got some pretty name actors in this movie and some name talent. And, the story is pretty simple. If you've already heard or seen documentaries about the Salem witch trials, that, back in the 1600s, that, in the town of Salem, these girls, they started having these like fits, I guess, if you want to call it, for lack of a better word. They started having these fits, and they started accusing people of being witches. And this one family, they had the servant Tituba. She showed them some kind of like, I don't know about witch stuff, but she showed them kind of like some voodoo type stuff, and like there's a scene where these girls are, they're taking eggs, and they break the eggs, and they drop the yolk and the egg into a bowl, and then it's supposed to like show them, what their future husband is going to look like, or it's going to show them like what their future husband is going to do for a living. So I think like one, they see there's like a blacksmith, or something like that. So they're doing that. But then when the parents and like the local kind of like politicians and the religious leaders and stuff, they start kind of, hey, what's going on here and stuff like that. And they start, um, but one thing, I don't know, this strikes me like the most true situation that could have happened is that in those times you have like your kind of religious and political leaders. They're in the town, but they want like more power. They want to govern over everybody. They want to keep everybody under their control. And, when these girls seeing that, like, like their fathers want to take control, like their fathers want more land, they want, like in the case of Giles Courtney, they talk about, they wanted his land. They, because he was actually one of the more prosperous farmers in the area, and they wanted his land. They wanted his possessions. They wanted his farm and things like that. Then it seemed like on cue, all of a sudden, these girls would just, start with their fits, and they would go and say that, he's practicing witchcraft. His family practices witchcraft, and that, he's putting a curse on them, or he's putting a spell on them, and that they need to look into him. So they would go and, they would get him. In his case, he wasn't hung. They laid him down on the ground. They put a board on him, and they started putting heavy boulders on top of him. And they kept, wanting him to confess that he was a witch, or that he practiced witchcraft. And the one thing that was going to happen was they were going to get his land anyway. It was already set pretty much that they were going to get his land and his property, whether he confessed or not. They were going to take everything away from him, and he, was not going to sit there and admit to being a witch, and he would just say more weight. And so, he was very defiant, in the way that he died. And, so it's kind of like, you have so much respect, and it's such a great loss that, these people died for the only reason being because they were successful in life, or just because somebody didn't like them. Or, I think in one of the witches' cases, I think they got her because there was a rumor that she was promiscuous, that she liked to fool around. So they got her for that. There's a, spoiler here, but, there's actually a part in the movie where Shirley MacLaine, her character, is, this older woman, more mature woman who, in the town, she has a reputation as the most God-fearing, the most devout Christian to the church that there is. And they turn around and they accuse her. And it's all like, it just goes to show you how ridiculous this whole thing really was. And that, people would stoop to any level just to, it was a horrible thing to sit there and just, my God, to sit there and think what human beings are capable of. If people are worried this isn't a horror story, no, it's very much a horror story. It's a human horror story, in the sense that, this is talking about how the horror comes from how horribly evil and mean people can be to each other. And, and just because you might annoy somebody, and it could be just for the tiniest, most piddly of bullshit, it's like, and I think that's kind of the thing, though, is like, looking at a movie like this, it almost makes you kind of look at the climate we live in today. You kind of wonder, is it going to go back to that puritanical code, those puritanical ethics where, here, like in another 10 or 20 years, because people become so offended by everything, is it going to go back to that point where, if you don't conform to everybody's way, are you going to be the next one up that's going to be accused of being a witch? Or are you going to be hung? It's scary. It makes you think, especially in this day and age, these kind of times we live in. Is this what we're going back to? Is this kind of mentality? And, but, you know, that's one of the things, though, too, is like, like I said, Shirley MacLaine, her character is pretty much like the most devout Christian. She always helps at the church. She's always volunteering her time. She's always trying to help everybody and pray for everybody and all this other kind of stuff. And, it's like, you can say whatever you want, but it's all like, that was a good woman. She did not deserve to die, you know? And like another thing, though, too, it just goes to show you how scuzzy some of these people really were, that, just the things that they would, just the littlest thing, could like get them to turn on their neighbors or turn on their family or whatever. You have, like in this case in the movie, there's this beautiful young woman, and she's married to this young guy, and they have a baby. Now, this young woman, she's very she's very strong in her faith. She's very strong in her beliefs. So what she does is she volunteers her time to help out the local minister. Well, the minister, in the beginning of the movie, this movie actually runs about 3 hours long. So if you're going to watch this, you better have some time on your hands. This movie clocks in at 3 hours long. But anyway, so the minister, we start off, his character, he's married to Rebecca DeMornay, which, lucky lucky bastard. Anyway, he's married to Rebecca DeMornay, and they end up getting. She ends up leaving him, and I believe she takes his children away from him too, and everything because she sees what he's becoming. And her character, she's sick a lot of the time, but she sees that he's becoming corrupt, and like the more that power that they give him in the town to pick out and seek out who are witches and who are not, that she sees that he's becoming more morally bankrupt about the whole thing. And so she ends up leaving. She takes the kids with him, and this young woman decides she's going to help because she believes, she believes in him. She believes that he's doing God's work. She's just a very devout Christian. And so she ends up like she's going over and she's like cleaning his house and cooking for him and things like that, making sure that everything is nice and ready for him. So when he comes home at the end of the day, and is like, then she turns around, she goes and she goes home to her husband and her child. Well, as consequences would have it, she ends up being put in jail herself, being accused of witchcraft. And again, it just goes to show you how effing ridiculous this whole thing is, because it's clear how devout of a Christian she is, and she's married and she has a child, and it turns out they turn around and they get the husband and the baby are put in jail as well. And the minister decides he's going to take a chance, because this guy's been lusting after this girl like there's no tomorrow. Real man of God, huh? But anyway, so he's been lusting after this girl like there's no tomorrow. So what he ends up doing is he goes to her and he explains to her that he's going to get her out, that he's going to declare that she's going to she's going to be declared innocent. She's not a witch. He's going to take her out. He's going to protect her. And at first, she's thrilled to hear this news, because she's, oh, that's wonderful. That's great. I'm going to be cleared, because I'm not a witch. I very much believe in the church. I believe in God and things like that, and she's like, that's great, and how soon are my husband and my baby are going to be released? Because, they're innocent too. And he's all like, what? She's like, yeah, what about my husband and my child? And he's all like, no, I'm not getting out your husband and your kid. No, they're staying. You're the only one who's coming out. And she's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Wait, how could you leave my husband and my child? They're innocent. They're innocent. That they're good, God-fearing, honest folk and everything. And he basically pretty much propositions her that the condition that he's going to get her out of jail is that basically she has to become his his, little love kitten sex slave. Pretty much. She's got to be willing to lay down for him anytime he wants. She has to be completely submissive to him. Basically, it's the 1600s version of 50 Shades of Grey, pretty much. And he tells her, if he does that, he'll get her out of jail and she can be safe and nobody will accuse her of anything. But her husband and her baby, tough luck, they're going to die. And so, when she realizes that this guy is just doing this for his own ends, and she realizes how much of a hypocrite this guy is and how, horrible he is and everything, she decides, no, if anything else, I'm going to say, if my husband and my baby, they're innocent. I know they're innocent. And if they're going to stay here and die, I'm going to die with them, so, and it just, oh man. Now, I mean, I know like everything in this movie, it's not 100% accurate. I know there's going to be embellishments. I know there are probably like better documentaries and stuff that you could watch, but I at least applaud the effort that they're gonna try to make a movie and try to tell the real story instead of just trying to make up fake stories. And because they've already done that. They've already done many movies about witchcraft. About, oh, what if it turned out there were real witches in Salem, Massachusetts, and stuff like that. And I think even like Hocus Pocus has that kind of a storyline. What if there were real witches during the time of the Salem Witch Trials and stuff like that? So, but this one here really does try to tell the true story. And like I said, I'm sure it's not 100% accurate. I'm sure there's embellishments, things like that. But, still, and then the fact when they bring Peter Ustinov's character in, at first he kind of gives the impression that he's going to be fair and level-headed and that he's going to, he's going to judge everybody fairly. He's going to go on the evidence. He's going to listen to logic and reason. No, he does not do that in the slightest. Turns out this guy is the biggest witch hunter of them all. And this guy doesn't even need proof to convict somebody. He'll just do it on a whim, pretty much. And that, they just, and it was, oh my God, it becomes just so crazy. They end up, by the end of it, I think they said that, I mean, of course, there were a total of 20 people who were executed on the charges of witchcraft. 19 by hanging, one by being, like I said, Giles Courtney being crushed by the rocks. Then there was, I believe that the total count was over 200 people, including Tituba, who she was one of the very first ones. That was kind of interesting. She was one of the very, very, very first ones that was accused of witchcraft. And then they put her in prison, and she pretty much stayed in prison throughout the entire time, but she didn't get executed. She was one of the ones released. So anyway, but yeah, just, oh my God, it was so insane. It got to the point where even Kirstie Alley, her character, like I said, I'm sorry, but spoilers. It even got to her point, the point she even accused, I believe was, what was it, like the Queen or somebody? Or it was like the wife of the Prime Minister, somebody like that. She accused her of witchcraft, and that's when they came in and they said, okay, you guys are now, they went in and who said my wife was, a witch and all this other kind of stuff. And he's all like, okay, yeah, your bull does not work. We're shutting this whole thing down. And that's what stopped it, and then, but it turned out that's what these girls were doing. These young girls, they were doing it, you know, obviously they were doing it to get attention. It got everybody to pay attention to them. It made them important, made them seem like they were really doing something in the community and stuff like that. And then also, it got attention from their families, from their community and things like that. But at the same time, though, too, they just wanted to, you realize, like, a lot of it was they realized, like, how much more their parents and everybody would prosper if these certain people were done away with. And so that's what they did. They knew, the young girls knew that their parents and the political and religious leaders were using them for their own ends, but they didn't mind. They liked doing it because the more they did it, the more they benefited, because the more land they accumulated, the more resources and everything they accumulated, the more wealthy and prosperous they became, and the more they gained power. So they liked doing it. So anyway, though, yeah, it was insane. Just this whole thing was insane, the way it all went down and stuff. But honestly, like I said, yeah, this movie clocks in about 3 hours long, or 191 minutes. I'm sorry. But, like I said, you could find this. This movie is not hard to find. Go look in you find it in pawn shops all over the place. You can find it in thrift stores. You can find it in dollar bins, $5 bins, whatever. You find this movie all over the place on DVD and Blu-ray. It's dirt cheap, but it is a good movie. And I would say definitely check it out if, you do have historical interest in things like the Salem Witch Trials, because this would definitely be an entertaining watch. So I highly recommend it. So yeah, give it a shot. Plus, too, like I said, you got a really good cast. You got, like I said, hell, just Shirley MacLaine and Peter Ustinov alone, but you got Kirstie Alley, Rebecca DeMornay, so on, so on. So yeah, give it a shot, I say. So good film. Anyway, that's pretty much going to do it. So yeah, not much. I got the DVD and the Blu-ray in here, so made a DVD Blu-ray combo out of it. So anyway, that's pretty much going to do it. So if anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed this video. I honestly hope I got at least some of the facts right. I have watched plenty of documentaries and stuff about the Salem Witch Trials, but I can't guarantee that I got everything correct. So hopefully I at least got enough information right. But anyway, that's going to do it. So yeah, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I do weekly reviews and haul videos and other things. So until then, take care. And I am the Night Walker, and you better be careful. You might see me out strolling about at night. Hopefully I don't come for you.